Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Tom Emmer completely tears apart Dana Bash for asking not only this moronic question, but missing the point about Abreu Garcia. Let's dive in.
There's no evidence that was provided because there was no hearing in which to do so that he is either a murderer or a criminal or a gang member. Isn't that something that should be provided to a judge, even an immigration judge, before somebody who has been in this country illegally, no question, but has been in this country and has appeared before judges before should be afforded?
I think he was afforded that due process. In this case, an illegal alien was transported back to El Salvador. The administration initially thought it was a mistake. Subsequently, it says it was not a mistake. The courts, interestingly, have suggested that we need to understand what facilitate means in the order. So they've deferred back to the lower court, Dana, to tell the administration, facilitate means this. And what's going on in El Salvador now is you have a citizen of El Salvador that is within the country of El Salvador. It really isn't the U.S.'s ability to go in and remove someone. It'll be up to the president of El Salvador.
Can I just go back, because you said a couple of times that he did get a court hearing. Are you talking about the 2019 hearing that he had?
I'm talking about when he requested asylum and it was rejected. I'm talking about that hearing, which I'm not going to get into the transcript. Nobody seems to want to talk about the MS-13 issues that are in that transcript. Again, his request for asylum, he had due process. It was rejected.
Okay. Well, a couple things. First of all, if you talk about the process, the one thing that the judge did do is say that he had a protection order and that he should not be deported to El Salvador, and yet he was. Specifically, they said not to El Salvador because they were concerned about his safety.
I figure that the court process will continue, Dana, but I find it very interesting that your network and others like the senator from Maryland are doubling down on an illegal alien when they won't talk about all the Americans who have been harmed by illegal aliens. And you've heard this story over and over about Rachel Morin, the senator's own constituent, who he doesn't even give words of comfort to her family, but he will fly down to El Salvador to deal with an illegal alien who is a resident and a citizen of El Salvador.
But Mr. Emmer, I hear what you're saying, and I think that both things can be true. I want to ask you about another idea that President Trump is floating. He's done so repeatedly, and that's the idea of deporting U.S. citizens convicted of violent crimes to El Salvador. You're not only a lawmaker, you are an attorney. Do you think the federal government has any legal authority to do that with American citizens?
I think right now what he's doing is absolutely legal, which is removing those that do not have legal status in this country that have proven to be the worst of the worst. This is what he promised Americans he would do. And you talk about me listening to the senator. The senator literally doesn't do anything for his constituent who is murdered mercilessly by an illegal alien let in under the Biden administration's open border policy. But boy, when an illegal alien gets deported to his country of origin, he flies right down to represent him. It seems to me that these Democrats are representing the illegal aliens against the very constituents, the U.S. citizens, that they're supposed to be protecting.
Attaboy, Tom. Attaboy. Don't answer that question. Don't you dare try to play in her little trap card, okay? She's out there playing her hand as best she can, and she's losing pretty badly during this whole entire time. Because, again, the narrative around Abreu Garcia has been completely misconstrued by almost the entirety of the mainstream media, and most Americans aren't buying it. And I'll get to that in a little bit, but what Tom Emmer is doing here, by the way, he's the number 3 Republican in Congress, And this dude is putting on a masterclass, particularly right here at the end. Dana Bash, after getting blocked time and time again by the basic truth that Abreu Garcia was correctly deported to El Salvador, his country of origin, and finally she brings up at the end her last card that she can play is basically an Uno reverse card. Well, the question is, well, can Donald Trump actually deport American citizens? He's talked about it. Okay, first off, let's be honest here. Donald Trump being serious about deporting American citizens? Sure, buddy. There's this cool little thing called the U.S. Constitution and the Supreme Court, which, by the way, that President Trump does obey. Reminder, the Supreme Court, there's been this whole legal theory around it that you can make all these decrees, but you can't technically enforce it. It's quite literally on the honor system here, and Trump doesn't break that honor system. When other courts, however, when lower courts are trying to hold up federal workings and actual federal policy, let's be honest here, we start having a bit of a problem. But what Donald Trump is doing when it comes to rhetoric, he's talking specifically about potentially deporting American citizens, which is illegal. It's a joke. It is something that he's not serious about. What this is, time and time again, we have seen this for 10 years now. You'd think the mainstream media would learn, but they can't. They are addicted to what they're trying to do, all because these little insipid rich white liberals need to feel good about themselves, and so CNN will effectively lie to them about what's actually happening. And because they know if they don't do it, they'll move to another news network that will tell them the complete opposite of reality. And so when Donald Trump is joking about potentially deporting American citizens, it's there for laughs, it's there to be ridiculous, and just as importantly, it's there for mainstream media outlets to clutch their pearls and pick up on something and go, oh, Donald Trump said this, when he's not able to. He has no authority to do so. And instead of reminding people of what his powers actually are, they have to go out there and see if they can trap Republicans into arguing in good faith about this whole situation. And Tom Emmer refuses to talk about it. Instead, he stays on the message, and that is Abreu Garcia has had alleged affiliations and ties with MS-13. He was picked up with MS-13 members back in 2019, and even had a traffic stop in the state of Tennessee where there were people without proper papers and that all happened to give the exact same home address, and it was not picked up directly by the state troopers of the state of Tennessee. They did allow him to go on, but they knew something was wrong, and so they, of course, wrote it down, and it's now been used as evidence against him. Okay, the case against Abreu Garcia is not good. And the more information that we have, the worse it gets for him, for the Democratic Party, and for the mainstream media. Because the mainstream media can be reporting about the reality of this man, and they refuse. Then the Democrats could be talking about, well, maybe we actually have an illegal immigration problem. When Senator Chris Van Hollen went down to El Salvador and talked about bringing back this illegal migrant who happened to be residing in Maryland, he has absolutely refused to talk to the family of Rachel Morin, who was slain by an illegal migrant in the exact same state. You'd think that there'd be two sides of the same coin and the Democrats would show empathy for both sides, but unfortunately they weaponize empathy, and instead of actually helping people, instead of meeting people where they're at, instead of understanding the average American's needs, they instead cater to the proclivities of rich white liberals who live away from the average American and don't understand what it's like out here. Okay? Republicans aren't playing the Democrats' game anymore. Okay? We have refused time and time again. Trump has led the way on that, by the way. That's just the reality of the situation. The Republican Party has finally learned how to deal with the mainstream media, and the mainstream media cannot keep up. This is a wonderful change in the entire national zeitgeist. It's a big reason why Trump won with 77 million voters, won all 7 swing states, and as the protests are growing against him, reminder of what those protests all look like. They look like the same people that were protesting back in the 1960s. The Democrats have been outflanked, and the Republicans have been given more and more information about Abreu Garcia, and the Democrats cannot help themselves and fall deeper into this trap laid by the GOP. And now Dana Bash is trying to lay her own trap here, and of course Tom Emmer refuses to fall in it. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.